Cool. Also, if you want to, I can record this in OBS and put it on my personal YouTube channel, so you don't have to remember everything that we talk about.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Can you send me?
Just link me your YouTube.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'll send you the code. I'll send you the code and then you can put it on YouTube. And this is from today.
I placed pretty low as well.
What would you play?
3644.
Well, with that new...
No, it's just double shield.
God, yeah. Somebody tried to play that today in my game, and I was like, really? Why?
So, which okay, to start with,
Any game name is the same.
what do you play, and what do you want to learn?
So generally, I play Rhine or Zarya, but Orisa is one of my old ones that I enjoy playing her, especially when she was stronger. I enjoyed playing her, but I do enjoy playing Orisa, which is why when he picked Sigma, I was like, cool, I'm gonna go ahead and pick Orisa. I like playing her. But
So,
I know that at my level, the positioning's not great. Like Sigma's the off tank, and this is me.
So you're more like.
So he should be taking off angles while I'm trying to keep the front.
Yeah.
Up.
So, are you a main tank or an off tank? Are you flex tank? Because you mentioned Ryan and Zarya. Okay, cool. And how much calling do you do in game? Like comms and stuff.
So, if the rest of my team isn't talkative, I do a lot. Like this game, I did a lot of calling because, like we joked at the beginning, but then as soon as the game started, everyone was silent. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go ahead and talk to them.
Okay. So to start, one of the hardest things about a double shield comp, in my opinion, is that it's harder to push with double shield than it is with Ryan Zarya, right? Because a Zarya can like bubble a Ryan, and that Ryan can push in without worrying about damage and stuff. So with Orisa Sigma though, it's all about shield usage and playing behind shields. So you shielded early there, which is basically okay. But generally speaking, my mindset, at least when I'm playing Orisa, is I want to shield where I want to be, not where I am, right? So at this point, you could shield the choke so that you could fall back into that room or fall back down there, or you could shield even further up and try and push off left side, near the mini room. Because at the moment, I mean, it's basically okay what you did, because you'll get cooldowns soon, and they're already dropping back for some reason. But like, if you did want to push in, then you'd have to play more aggressive with your bubbles, or your shields rather.
Right. And question for supports on this: with double shield, they're both slower tanks. Would Lucio be a better choice for one of our healers in this case?
On offense, yeah, maybe. But, I mean, it's not going to matter that much, I don't think.
Okay.
Because
well,
I think double shield is more about sustain and focusing, like chipping people down.
So it's the new goats.
So yeah, I don't think it would make that much of a difference, but it can probably definitely help.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, like you would want to play. Well, your aim is to get to the objective, right? And in order to do that, you want to play like aggressive. But as I mentioned, playing with Orisa Sigma is hard because you have a static shield and you can't really push past it once it's down. So again, you might want to try playing with slightly more aggressive shields just to give you that extra wiggle room, and so you can try and push up a bit. But obviously they are really close here, so I don't know if that would be the best idea. Here you would either want to, so you'd either want to get your Sig on a flanking angle, which, what is that? Which he already is, and hope that he can get some picks and force the enemies back, or just try and like out-sustain them and out-chip them down, so like break their shields before they break yours, which should be pretty easy since that you're playing double shield and they're only playing single shield. So at this point, oof.
Yeah, I dropped back because of my health.
So like with Irigam, that shield could be further up, but I mean, judging by the state of your team right now, I think these are all just little things that don't really matter, because even if you were playing more aggressive, I don't think you would reliably be able to push in that far. I want to take another look at that actually. I'll look from third person so I can see the rest of the team. So your Sigma gets a pick, and then I think he just... Yeah, he doesn't back up enough, and he's not in the line of sight of the healers, so he gets picked off, which is unlucky. And at this point, okay, I think at this point you should probably back off quicker.
Right.
Because you end up just facing the Hanzo, and then he just shoots you down. Yeah, he gets a free headshot there, right? So generally, you don't want to be standing still, like ever, like as any character, because that makes it like super easy for people to hit you, right? So one thing you can do is AD spam, or even if you're just walking backwards and forwards, or left and right, or something like that, then it makes them easy to hit you, because what you were just doing was standing perfectly still, and that meant that Hanzo could get a free headshot on you, which is the main reason why you ended up dying, right? Because you're just standing there, and he walks into you, and then you get down to super low HP off that one headshot. But if you played, if you moved more, or if you dropped back further, then your healers are still alive. So if you didn't take too much damage from that Hanzo, you might have been able to recover and hold your ground. But now you're gonna have to play all the way back again, because the other enemy team are at a big advantage over you. I think that's probably a big problem with lower SRs, is just knowing when to back up and knowing when to push in. Because like at this point, that Ashe and that Mercy, that Moira that just died should have played all the way back in spawn if they had to, right? Because the enemies were playing pretty aggressive. Now they're not for some reason. I think they were trying to get the Tracer, but if you're a couple people down, you should always definitely try and play as far back as you need to. So here again, I'd be waiting for my shield to recover. One thing you can do if you don't want to have to cross a choke and take lots of damage is either you could have coordinated with your Mei maybe and asked him to wall you over so you can get across safe, or you can just literally go behind, play around actual physical cover, right, or gone all the way around if it meant that you didn't die. Because the most important thing that you can offer to your team is your life, right? You don't want to die. You don't want to die early. Whenever you can avoid it, you should just try to stay alive, which is again why knowing when to play forward and when to play back is important in lower SRs, because that means that you can kill more people and you have the advantage, or it means that you don't die as much, which means you have an advantage, I guess. So yeah, I think generally, in terms of team comp, unless you are being really coordinated and your Sigma's getting a good off angle and a couple picks, I wouldn't recommend playing double shields, because it requires a lot of coordination. Like your Mei could wall this choke here, and you could go left side. Your Sigma could go right side again through that little door, like you did on the first fight, and try and get a pick, and then you could just steamroll over them. But if you're not coordinated, it's generally better to just go Rein Zarya or something, because Rein Zarya is easier to play with low comms.
Yeah, like that full rock. We should have pulled rock.
Mm-hmm. You can also pull in flux, so that Sigma should have waited for your pull, but they were all grouped up anyway, so that was really nice. I'm gonna take another look at that since you won that fight. See if I can talk any more about it. So somebody gets picked off early, right? Yeah, the May gets killed by the dragon, which is unlucky. I don't think there was anything he could have done there.
Not much. She was in a bad spot.
Mm. So that Sombra gets too aggressive, but that doesn't matter because they're a Sombra. Ah, the Tracer goes in the back line. Nice. So yeah, Tracer's really good at, obviously really good at flanking. And that was a really big ult from your Sigma there. It was really nice.
I remember at this point I was like, hey, where's that Mercy Sombra? Because Mercy just res Sombra. And then this Sombra is questionable. Like, why would you come in? This is dumb of me. I get him down to 1, and I lose this.
That's fair. You still had your shield up though, right? So if you're going into a 1v1 as a Risa, you should always use your shield if you have it. Because one thing you can do is, I'm going to just draw this out on the screen, it's going to be confusing, right? You can put out your shield, and then you can go backwards and forwards in like a zigzag, or in just like AD spam again. Yeah, shield dance, shield hopping, whatever you call it. Because you die with your shield still not used, right?
Yeah.
Because what you could do is, you could just shield there, and then pin him down, or damage him down. But you end up, I mean, you could have killed him, but it would have been a lot easier if you just used your shield.
Yeah.
Damn, he was one. Unlucky.
Very. I was like, oh, I'm sorry guys, I fucked up.
It's fine. You near spawns anyway. It's not going to set you back too much. I mean, yeah, see the enemy team now, right? So this is what I was talking about with pushing up and knowing when to fall back, right? So the enemy's just got to pick, right? They got to pick on the main tank. That's one of the most important picks that a team can get, because the main tanks are the frontliners. They play in the front. They enable the rest of your team, right? So what the enemy team should have done is gone all the way up. Okay, if I were them, I would have at least hold here, like at the edge of this wall, if not further up, if I was more coordinated, because it's a 5v6, so theoretically they should always win until you get back, but you're not going to be back for another couple of seconds, so in that time they might be able to get another pick. But B, I lost my point. I don't remember, whatever. You get it though, right? Because it was a 6v5, because you're coming back from spawn, and the enemies are still going this way. They're holding the S key, which is a bad idea, because they could chip down the Sigma, even though he's getting double pocketed, and punish him for being too far up, and then they could just push in, because there's no reason not to. If they're one player up, then it's always it's generally a good idea to push in, unless it's just like a player they don't really need. I don't know. Yeah, so at this point the Sigma does decide to play back a little bit more. Whoa, flanking Junker. Nice. So yeah, your team gets some really nice picks going on flanks here, so you should be able to win this fight. Hopefully? No? This is crazy. Okay. I want to watch that.
We do get that with all of us coming back from stuff.
So what happens to the Moira?
She does that and I get out of the west.
So in that situation, if you knew that your DPS were flanking and they were kind of popping off, then you might have been able to just play further back and recover and wait for your Ana to come back from spawn and just hope that the DPS clean up. But
yeah.
I don't think that was much else you could have done there.
I think we lose this next fight.
So again here, I think you could have yeah, see, the problem with Orisa is you always want to shield where you are to play safe, but if you're on offense or if you're engaging, then you need to play much more aggressive with shields. So I'd go all the way. I'd go. Where would I go? I'd go like all the way up to where the bridge starts, maybe. I'd try and push it to there, because you should know that your DPS is still around, even if there are people contesting them, and you do have support now. So pushing up is a good idea. Also, if you see where the Hanzo goes, and you hear him ult, it's probably not a good idea to stand in front of him. Right? So, you were looking at the Hanzo. You saw him go over there. But then you still elected to go on that side. Now, it's fine. Obviously, you're a tank. You're 400 HP. Nothing's going to happen. You're just going to give your support him as ult charge. But I mean, generally, I'd try to avoid it.
Yeah, I should have gone straight forward instead of good. No idea where that rank came from.
Where did the Zarya come from? Was she in high ground?
I think they were both.
Oh, they were in high ground.
As soon as he dropped down, I was like, what the fuck just happened?
Whoa, that's toxic.
Pretty fucking normal.
So, where? Oh.
Didn't we
Okay then.
I think he just wanted them all there.
Okay. You can combo Halt and Flux. I think I mentioned that earlier, because Halt can pull them in, and then Flux is Flux. I feel like that was probably a communication issue. I don't know why the Sigma ulted to engage. That was probably a bad idea, because I don't think he knew where they were. What is this? Oh, it's the Mei Ice. Also, another I assume this was a communication issue, where the Ana just kind of died in the backline.
She didn't say anything until she was dead.
Unlucky. Because if you were being more coordinated, Sigma is pretty good for peeling, because his shield is so mobile.
Right.
Like, Sigma can shield from one side of a point to the other. So, but obviously he's ulting right now, so it would be kind of hard for him to do that. But if it was more coordinated and your Sigma didn't ult to engage the fight, then he would have been stood like about here, so he could have peeled and tried to rock the Sombra and maybe shield the Ana to try and save him.
Yeah.
What are their tanks doing? That's crazy. I never see them on the high ground.
No.
You actually won that fight.
Yeah.
How did you win that fight? Wait, I want to watch that again. Oh, it was you. Junkrat tire as well. Okay.
And we just blew our entire economy.
Yeah. I feel like in lower SRs, you generally just need to improve your own mechanics, because teamwork is a lot less common, and communications is a lot more rare as well. But I mean, fundamentally, I think your Orisa gameplay is fine. Just the aggression with your shields, yeah, I'm happy with it. I mean, tracking on Orisa is weird for everybody, because she's a projectile instead of a hit scan, but I think that just comes with practice. I mean, you can go into like aim trainers and aim arenas and workshop if you feel like you need to improve your tracking, but I think generally you're okay. So there, as soon as your Ryan died, you should have gotten all the way back, but I mean, it's kind of hard on this point because third is, Eichenwald third is really really close quarters. So even if you backed off, you probably would have died anyway.
Yeah, and I switched to Zarya here.
Oh, I gotta take the screenshot. Whoops. Forgot about that. Okay. Okay, that's fair enough. I was gonna say you should try and focus down the supports since the supports are healing Lazaria, but since she's really low anyway, she's like what 75 HP. Then you can probably you can make an argument for trying to focus her down instead. Although it looks like you don't get him. So that was a nice bubble. I don't know if that was intentional to block the EMP for the run. Yeah.
Yes.
So here again.
She was meaning EMP, but the bubble was intentional.
So here I would back up. Your Mei is using ultimate for some. Where's your Mei? Oh, she's there. So yeah, your Rhine is dead and they're already using trans, so even if you did manage to recover, then you wouldn't be able to kill anybody because trans would out heal you. They still commit male, but wow. Looks like you're gonna win.
I don't think we won.
I
this
spoke
fight.
too soon. Oh, unlucky.
We got a nice ENT under the run, which is why we killed the trains. I don't get back before they can.
Okay. I have things to talk about with you, Zarya, but they're kind of hard to talk about, so I'll have to get into a custom game after the after we've watched the VOD. So I can demonstrate instead of telling, you know?
Yeah.
Ooh, MVP skin, huh?
I have so many tokens from the first 2 seasons of Overwatch League.
Nice pull. Ooh, you DPS. Ooh, Hanzo Junker. That's not good. Okay, so that pressure onto the fire is okay, but if you're not hitting the fire, like, all heroes have an effective range, right? And that's just like how far away they can hit people. And you keep on aiming at the fire even though you're not getting hit markers and she's too far away, like there. I mean, I think it's okay because you do end up killing her, but if you were consistently, if she was just too far away and you knew she wasn't going to get closer, then I'd just switch targets.
Right.
But she doesn't. She gets caught out without a mercy, so it's okay. Also here, you just are you just pretending the Sigma doesn't exist?
No. So I was trying to help out Hanzo and Moira because they were the only two. Because we just lost our Junker, we just lost our Rhine.
Okay. Well, as a Zarya, you want to incorporate your bubble usage into the rest of your gameplay as much as possible, right? Like, make it as fluid as possible. just like a Zen, right? Because a Zen won't stop shooting to harmony or discord of somebody. They'll incorporate it into their gameplay, and they'll make it smooth. They'll make smooth transitions between pressuring an enemy and healing. So what you should do as Zarya there, in my opinion, is because you can't see them, you should just pressure down the Sigma. Right? If you could see them, then that bubble's totally warranted. But you could make calls in chat saying, Hanzo, back up, I'm gonna bubble you, or something like that. Or, like, in the... Because if you shoot down the Sigma a bit there, then in the time that, like, you can go around that way, and you can pressure him down, because then you can get him to, like, at least maybe 300 HP or something. And in that time, you'll be in LOS of one of your squishies over here. So... But otherwise, you just went this way. You left the Sigma alone, so he's still full health, and then you bubble your Hanzo anyway. So I think it's worthwhile to just pressure down the Sigma while you walk back, right?
Yeah.
When did your run die?
Right as I go past the Sigma, shoot at him.
Okay. That's just unlucky then. You kind of got split up from your Ryan when you started to pressure down the fire.
Yeah.
Oh well. I mean, if you didn't kill him, I don't think she would have been reliably killed any other way. So I think it's okay. You could have just told your Ryan that you're gonna drop back, and that you were gonna try and focus down the fire. But again, comms in lower SR, I assume, aren't as common.
No, their shit compared to what I've seen on Twitch and shit.
Yeah, so like there again, I mean you do turn, but I guess it could have been earlier when you saw her go behind the bridge. So there I'd push in because you're at least 3 up. I'd push all the way in, right? Yeah, there we go. So you're doing it now, but you could have done it earlier while they were still walking backwards, and they were closer to you. But it's fine. Yeah, so there again, right? You stop shooting, and you just look at your Ryan for like 3 seconds, and nothing happens because it's out of your LOS. And in that time, you could have done like 75 damage. I don't know. And you could have built your ult some more, and there's a lot of things that you could have done in that time instead of just staring at your Ryan who was around the corner.
My bubble shit this game.
Hmm?
My bubble management shit this game. It's what, 6 and 2?
I'm not sure you needed grab there either.
Yeah.
But that's just
I could have definitely saved it.
But yeah, that was handled fine. Pushing up here is definitely a good
I
idea.
grabbed Ryan Shadow.
That's a nice bubble. That's fine too. So now I'd play back since you don't have any bubbles. I'll bubble your Ryan out. You should be getting back now that they're all back and they have spawn advantage. Unless you were already planning on using an ultimate, that is. In which case you can hold your ground. So there you have team bubble that you're apparently not using. I'm gonna zoom out since there's too many colors.
Yeah.
Let's watch that again.
I used it on Ryan once it popped.
Oh, Luciana.
When we first get grabbed, I didn't have it, and as soon as I did, I bubbled Ryan.
That's a few too many ults from them. You didn't need tire either. but hold on.
Slows them down, doesn't stop.
So, like generally, if you're like 1 or 2 picks down, then you should just give up. You should either die on point or you should back all the way up. So when this grab gets 2 people, alright, no, there we go. I just back up, okay? Because that's your main tank and your main healer. So even if this Junkrat does get a fat tire, chances are you're still not going to be able to win because your main tank and your main healer are still dead. And so now you just, so that tire was kind of wasted, and you've further fed the enemy team's ult charges by not dying earlier or not pushing backwards. So that was a coordination thing again. You could have said, the Ryan could have said, I want to go in here, and then you could have bubbled him when he went in, or you could have been like, Ryan, I can bubble you if you go in. But what happens here is they're too far back to really give you much energy from that. But the Ryan charges in like as soon as it ends, basically. Yeah. So he gets stunned, and that's not good. That personal's fine though.
They were fine.
Wow, that team shield got evaporated. Okay, so if you hear any ults from behind you, I'd just flick around, because Zarya is good at peeling, right? Where peeling means like protecting your backline. And even though you don't have team shield off cooldown, you can still deal some damage and throw some right clicks in, because you have pretty high energy, so you can probably get the Pharah to be low. So here I'd back up as well. Okay. So they just capped the objective. Actually, no, I do think this is fine. Okay. When they've broken down the door, then you should back up to at least like a little bit further back, like here. But at this point, I think it's fine to kind of kill the overextenders, because your entire team is spawned here, right? If it was just 1 or 2 of you, then you should definitely back off at least behind this corner here. But the fact that there's like 4 of you plus probably somebody out of the camera, then I think playing up here is okay. You should try to not shoot bubble targets as well, whenever you can. Obviously, sometimes it's unavoidable, but
I think I do it a lot in this last stretch.
I think that goes fine. Okay. It would have been fine if they didn't use ults to counter it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was on the outskirts, so it was a bit risky. I'd generally try and grab closer to the enemies that I want to grab, because since they're split, since they do end up getting split, the Zarya and the Lucio are on the left side, I'd grab further left, because I get that you're probably trying to get the Sigma in there as well, but I guess it just comes with practice. Like you get to a point where you kind of have an understanding of how far the radius of grav attraction is.
Do you know offhand what that is? Do you know offhand what the
No, I don't. It's like 6 meters or something. I can Google it. Let's check. Actually, I'll put it on here so you can. Overwatch outs grav radius. Hey, that said 6 meters, I think. 6 meter radius. There we go.
nice? Look at you.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, you're lucky enough that the Zarya and Lucio weren't quite far enough, but it looked like they were getting pretty far towards the edge of the radius.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So your personal bubble here is fine, but so gravitic flux is one of the best ways to get a lot of energy as Zarya. Even though you are max energy right now, you have your bubble in 1 second, and even though everybody else is dead, your Rhine is still alive. So whenever you can, I'd recommend trying to use bubble on yourself and an enemy if you can when you're dropping, because if you do it earlier than that, then they can burst through it, but when you're dropping, then they will always, then you'll basically always get 40 energy.
Okay.
So obviously it would have been basically like the last possible second if you did bubble your Rhine there, but it's a general tip as well. Just try to do it whenever you have bubbles off cooldown and they're fluxing you.
Okay.
So again, your Rhine dies early, but I don't think you really realistically had enough time to back up. So I don't think there's anything you could have done there. I mean, your Rhine probably shouldn't have shattered. You probably should have gotten back. Although that fight was already lost when the McCree got through. So
yeah.
This Rhine's a little aggressive, I think. Hey, it looks like it's working though. At a higher SR, you would definitely be focused down there and punished for playing so aggressive. But if it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know?
Yeah. Well, on Xbox, I play like mid to high gold and plats are in a lot of my games, and I know I get punished a lot more for some of the stupid shit I do.
So that's a nice recovery. I think you managed to win that with only nano, which is good.
Yeah.
Because you should always try and win as many fights as possible with as few ults as possible, obviously. So yeah, right clicks are one of the best sources of ult charge for Zarya, especially on like a grouped up team, because the right clicks does splash damage. So I think your right clicks at the start of that fight were fine. There I'd bubble your Junkrat. There we go. Nice. So if they're going, if you know that there's a bunch of people there, you can push up earlier, because you had team shield off cooldown, and I mean you're a tank, right? So it's going to be hard for them to kill you.
Yeah.
But you win the fight anyway, so it's fine.
Yep, and shooting bubble again. And we lose this one because of
What went wrong there? It looked like they were all on the ground to me. Even if they did have beat, you should have been able to damage through it a bit. I guess the Frog got in the backline, and that probably did a lot.
I think going around that corner, we were out of LOS and on that.
So generally, it's bad. It's a bad idea to combo tankles together. I assume it's just a communication issue again, because tankles can win fights on their own, right? A big Grav can do a lot. I mean, he might have chatted because they use beat, but even then he should have waited a bit longer because they still have beat right now. So if like Grav lasts for what, a couple seconds? So if it lasts for 3 seconds in there, then by the time it's over, they'll lose all their beat health. And then he can shatter if he wants to, because it is basically last fight. So then you can clean them up. But what happened there was you use Grav and then shatter basically immediately after, so it's kind of, it doesn't do much.
I didn't even notice that for a while.
I can't really hear you, by the way. You sound a little bit like you're in a fishbowl.
Sorry. My headset actually forgot to go, so I'm using what's left of it.
Oh, that's fine. I just want you to know in case I don't respond to a question or something. Nice. So generally, I think that went pretty okay. Again, the biggest issues, like with most low SR games, are communication and coordination, and just pure mechanical skill, which is always expected from a lower SR game. But so usually, if you primarily play solo queue, then there's not much of a point in working on coordination and communication, apart from me just telling you that you should do it more. So then it just comes down to the mechanical skill part. So I'm gonna go over some things for both the characters that you played in that game, probably. Maybe just primarily Zarya. So first thing, easiest thing to talk about is Zarya has a pretty decent burst damage combo, and it's right click and melee. Okay, so like that. It's basically the only burst damage combo that Zarya can do, but it's incredibly useful because it can be used to finish off targets. It can be used in grabs to deal damage to a lot of people at once, and you should always try and implement it into your gameplay whenever you can, because it does, I think, 70 damage. I'm gonna actually go into the practice range so I can kind of see easier how much damage it does, but it does a lot of damage. So especially if you're at high energy, you can just like zap somebody down for like a second and then right click melee and they're dead. And it's also useful, for example, if somebody's getting pocketed. So like at one point in that game, I think it was attacking third, you were against a Zarya who was low health, but they were getting double pocketed. But if you right click melee, you probably would have been able to finish them off, because that burst damage would have been greater than anything the healing could have done. So I think it does about 70 damage, I'm not really sure. Because right click does about, your melee does 30 and then your right click probably does about 40, I don't really know. But it's incredibly useful, and I would definitely recommend putting it into your gameplay as much as possible. That's about it really, just try to do it as much as possible. If you need to, you can just do it at the ground. If there's a chance that your right click might go past them, like that, then just do it at the ground if you need to. But there's literally no reason not to, right? Because it's just extra damage. Also, what I like to do if my aim is ever kind of messing up, so if I'm against somebody with a really small hitbox that's like dashing around everywhere, or if I'm just bad at tracking for some reason, like maybe it's an off day, then I'll just throw right clicks in there, because right clicks allow you to adjust your aim because you're stuck in an animation. So if I right click, then I can while I right click, I can flick onto where they are, so that I don't have to worry about missing all my shots as much. So I think that's pretty helpful as well. Another thing. So this is the biggest thing. I'm going to talk about bubbles for a bit. Bubble usage is a problem for like basically every single Zarya, myself included. But one of the big things you should know is you should never use your bubbles primarily to get energy, right? I'm gonna make a guide at some point in the future on the forums, just to make these things like more clear and written out and easier to understand. But your bubble, both of your bubbles are incredibly useful. They're incredibly powerful, right? Because they block 200 points of damage, which is a lot of damage in most cases. So generally, you want to use it either to enable your team or to protect your team. So for example, if you're playing Rein Zarya, then you can enable your Reinhardt by bubbling him when he engages, so that he can play more aggressive and he can get extra ult charge and you can create extra space and allow your team to push forward without having to worry about feeding and taking too much damage because you bubbled him, right? And that way you have 40 energy and the Reinhardt has a bit of ult charge and your team is at an advantage. So that's like enabling. Or for example, if your team is nanoblading or comboing some ultimates that might be able to get stunned out, then you can bubble your teammates there, and then that means that they won't have to worry about dying or getting stunned because again, bubbles can do a lot for your team. So yeah, generally I thought your bubbles were fine. You kind of use them just off cooldown, which is generally not the best idea. What you want to do is you want to wait for the best opportunity. Obviously, don't wait too long, or else you just end up letting people die. Because you tended to bubble your Rein a lot, which was generally okay because your Rein was playing aggressive whenever you bubbled him most of the time, but you don't always have to bubble your Rein, right? If you have like a flanker who's 1v1ing, or if you have somebody in their backline or something like that, then you can bubble them, and that will allow them to do more. Even though even though you might not get as much energy from it because they're in the backline and they're not getting focused by the rest of the team. Sorry, it's still a worthwhile bubble because you're enabling them, right? And it means that they're not going to die. They're not, or at least they'll be a lot less likely to die.
Right.
And then for for personal bubble, I will 9 out of 10 times use that basically for energy, right? One thing I like to do is I like to play in front of my Rein or play extra aggressive, so that I'm kind of forcing the enemies to damage me and give me extra energy, because like with the bubbling a Rein thing, right? If you're bubbled, then you can play aggressive and you can focus people down, and you don't have to worry about taking damage or feeding too much. So one thing you can do is, if your Rein is like at a choke here, at a pretend choke, I'll actually go here since it looks more like a choke. If your Rein's holding a choke, the one thing you can do is just hop forward, zap somebody down a bit, and then as soon as you get 40 energy, or as soon as your bubble runs out, then you get back behind your Rein. That way you're not feeding, and you're still benefiting because you will have got either ult charge or energy or both, and that's pretty good. Hello, Super Sandwich 123. We're coaching right now. Okay, cool. He's dead. So yeah, I think your bubbles were fundamentally okay, but again, it's like the little things. Like you could bubble flankers here and there. You don't just have to use bubbles as soon as you get them. You can pick and choose when you want to in order to maximize either the plays that your teammates get or the energy that you get from your bubbles. So there's a lot to it, a lot with like mind games and stuff. Another thing is, if you're ever high energy, like you got pretty high energy a couple times in that game, where you got to like, I'd say about 70 plus, maybe 60, 70 plus. If you have any more energy than that, then it's worthwhile to sometimes save your team bubble, because again, bubble is an incredibly useful tool and incredibly powerful. So for example, if the enemies are running, like in that game, the enemies ran a Pharah, right? And the Pharah liked to barrage from behind you. So one thing you could have done is, if you're high energy, or if you thought that the Pharaoh was going to go flanking, then you could save your team bubble in order to help your teammates and prevent their deaths, at least for a little while. So yeah. Apparently, Super Sandwich misclicked. Same thing goes, like, if the enemies, for example, are running a Roadhog, like Roadhogs like to flank as well, and they like to hook squishies. So if you think the Roadhog might be trying to do that, then you can bubble a Roadhog hook victim, and then by the time that they get to the Roadhog, chances are you'll either get 40 energy from it because the Roadhog won't realize, or it won't have the reaction times to not shoot, or they'll either manage to get away if the Roadhog doesn't shoot, because they'll still have bubble and they won't die as easily. So yeah, it's a lot of it's complicated, but it boils down to just either protecting your teammates or enabling teammates. Because like you can get really fancy, and like if you have personal bubble, you can just like body block for your team. So I don't know, for example, if there's a Mei and one of your squishies is frozen, then you can get in front of them and personal bubble, and that way your teammate doesn't die. Or you could just like generally stand in front of them, because it's hard for a Mei to kill a tank. It's hard for anyone to kill a tank. But you know what I mean. Like that would count as protecting your teammates again, because obviously it stops them from dying. If somebody was asleep and they were about to get headshot, but you didn't have team bubble, then you could just stand in front of them and stop that. Or if they're about to get charged, same thing. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of complex examples, like Nanoblade, like enabling a Reinhardt, but generally, if you think your bubble is going to protect your teammate from dying, not from taking poke damage, right? If it's like 50 damage, then it doesn't really matter. But if it's a scenario where if you don't bubble them right now, they're gonna die, then, or if you're enabling them to push in or to get a pick, then it's a worthwhile bubble, in my opinion, even if you don't get 40 energy, right? Because the damage difference between a 60-70 energy Zarya and a 100 energy Zarya is not a lot. I don't know how much exactly, but like it's still not a lot, especially if you throw in a right-click melees for that extra damage. It's not a lot of damage difference. So yeah, but again, like the majority of Zaryas have problems with bubble usage, especially like me included. Like sometimes I will try and play whenever I want to play aggressive, I'll use bubbles basically off cooldown just so we can play aggressive and just so I get as much energy as possible. But that's not a good idea, because what if there's a flanker on the enemy team, or what if somebody has ultimate? Like you can save somebody from a pulse bomb if you time it right and you bubble them. You can save somebody from, I don't know, you can save people from a lot of things with team bubble or with body blocking with a personal bubble. So there's a lot of mind games that goes into it, and obviously to do that you have to ult track as well, which is pretty complex. Sometimes I don't even do that. Because
I was good at it at one point, but I stopped after a while.
Fair enough. Especially if you're playing on a team, that can be a good idea. Because ult tracking as a team is important.
Like that tournament we did, I was the ult tracker, and a lot of the time I knew they had ult, and I called it out, but they'd wait like 5 minutes to use it unless it was like the Masters team out or whatever.
Another thing, I think this is the last thing to talk about with Zarya. Graviton usage. So your gravs were fine in that game. There wasn't much follow-up, but again, that's a coordination thing, and we're not going to worry about that. We're just going to talk about individual gravs. So the biggest counters to your gravs are D.Va, people like D.Va, and people like Sigma and Genji, because they can reflect or they can eat, right? So one thing you can do, like with Zarya and using Graviton, is faking a grav. So if I'm shooting the enemy and suddenly I'm like, bap, you know, if I suddenly flick away or I flick at my feet, then the enemies are gonna think, hey, that Zarya is about to grav. So therefore, one thing you could do is you could start shooting. You could flick away. Don't use grav. Wait for like the defense matrix or the deflect or the whatever Sigma's ability is called, his shift, his hands thingy. You can just wait for that to. You can just wait for that to end, and then as soon as it's ended, you know that you can grab for free. So yeah, that's pretty important, right? Because good divas will be able to ult track, and there's a lot of things that a Zarya will be doing when they have grav. Like they'll be playing more aggressive, or they'll be playing on a flank and things like that. So if the enemy Zarya does start doing that, then the enemy diva will be thinking, hey, this diva probably has this Zarya probably has ultimate since they're playing so aggressive. I should save DM in case they're gonna grav, and so therefore baiting it out is going to be a good idea. I'm sure it might not matter at like low SRs, but I mean, there's no point getting good habits, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, my goal this season is to at least hit gold, if not plat. Try on just tank. Like the only reason I play anything else is because my tank is too high to play with the team when I'm roster leader. But I'm 1824 placed, so I'm trying to hit at least gold, if not plat, and go beyond that after a while, which is kind of why I wanted coaching, so I can hit gold and then aim for plat. But it's going to be a struggle because I'm going to be solo queuing the whole time because nobody on my team is high enough to queue with.
Oof. I mean, you can probably find people in the Discord chat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do a LFT or G for it just to, when I'm having rough days, just to try and climb a little bit better.
So you played Orisa as well. I think I usually save Fortify until I'm taking damage, or if I need to play really aggressive and I don't have my shield in front of me. One of the biggest mistakes that Orisa players make is not having aggressive enough shields. So, like I mentioned, it's basically the start of the VOD review. You should shield where you want to be, not where you currently are. Especially if you're attacking. If you're defending, then obviously it doesn't matter because you're in the best case scenario, you're not going to be going anywhere. So you can just shield where you are the entire time. But when you're playing aggro or an offense, then you need to shield in front of you, like past the choke, not at the choke, you know.
Yeah.
Then pulls. I think pulls is primarily a coordination thing, because you can coordinate with your Sigma to get a pull and flux combo. You can coordinate with a DPS to get some extra damage into whoever gets fluxed, or to get whoever gets pulled. The only way to like solo carry with pull is if you manage to pull somebody off a map, which is only possible on like 3 maps or something. So it's usually not that common. Or like Holt and Hook, that used to be meta. Roadhog and Orisa all the time. Those had to be coordinated. Those are easier to coordinate though, because Holt and Hook have similar cooldowns, and so the Orisa would pull and the Roadhog would hook whoever gets pulled in order to kill whoever got caught out of position. But in terms of solo queue Orisa play, I think try to call and use them if you can coordinate. If you can't, then just try to use them to get extra damage in, I think. Like try and pull somebody above a shield in order to damage them. If you're on like Icon Vault like you were, like there's not many places that you can try and get a boop. You did try to get a boop on a Zarya once, which I saw, which is pretty nice. That was good, but if you can't do that, then the only thing you can really do is just get deal extra damage from your pulls.
Right.
Also, generally speaking, your tracking could be slightly improved, but I mean that's just up to you. There's not much I can coach on that. That's just up to individual practice. There's a bunch of custom game workshop codes where you can just practice your tracking. Like I can send you one after this if you don't know any.
I know some that are game trainers, but they're the PMA jelly ones. So if you have something better than that, that would be helpful.
Nah, I just know the PMA one. But yeah, generally, like, if you can, I don't know, if you can do that to warm up for comp or scrims or whatever you're playing, then it can be worthwhile, probably. I think that's about it.
Yeah.
For Arisa, there isn't much to talk about with Arisa, to be honest. She's pretty boring.
I know people hate her, but I enjoy playing her.
Do you have any other VODs? Do you want to just end it now? Because we've been going for an hour, but we can go for an hour more if you want to. If you have any other games you want to go over.
Yeah, I want to go over one that I actually did play right on. My off tank was pretty Kage.
Oof. Ooh, J-Town. Frames. Okay, so generally I wouldn't recommend Ryan Roadhog, but I think on Junkertown it's okay. What is going on with my PC? Oh. I've got so much stuff open. Whatever. Because your Roadhog can go on the flanks. Like there's a bunch of flanks on Junkertown first. I'll go zoom out to demonstrate. Whoop. That's the wrong button. So, like the Roadhog can flank around here and try and get squishies, or around here. Or go through there. I see a bunch of Roadhogs like start the round playing in there and try and get a hook from spawn, which can work sometimes. But generally speaking, Ryan and Roadhog don't have a lot of synergy. So on most of the maps, I wouldn't recommend it unless you can play solo, and if the Roadhog can get on flanks and pop off. Also, most people start in the high ground, but what's your team comp? Okay, you're running double snipers. Yeah, your snipers are in a fine position to get some early poke damage, but I guess it's fine. Like if the enemies were playing as sniper comp, then you'd want to play in the high ground. Most people play up on here, up here, so the snipers can shoot without getting pressured, because some widows like to play up on this high ground and shoot across, because they have a big LOS from there. They can see a lot of things, but luckily enough they're not running snipers, so you get away with it. Yeah. So this positioning is fine for this team comp. Also, I assume that's another communication thing. If the Roadhog said that he got a hook, then you could have tried to go over and follow up and maybe kill the Roadhog there, but oh well. Yeah, so there, how much health did you have? Let's have a look. Okay, so there, yeah, I guess you do get healed a bit. I would have recommended staying in the immortality field, but you do have quite a bit of health, so I think it was fine. It's just at this point, yeah, that backing up is fine. That backing up is good. You knew when to back up, then it's fine. You didn't feed too much. I'm okay with that. So here I'd back up. Yeah, okay. I'd want to be playing around the corner here because your shield is low, and there's no cover like physical cover, I guess. But yeah, I think for now this is okay. Because your shield only has like 500 HP left. So if you wanted to back off at this point, it would be relatively difficult. Are you there, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Ryan is the one I play the most, so I'm trying to listen a lot more to this.
Fair enough. So there I would shield your Roadhog out. You can use shield as a peeling tool. And it's not always just your backline that needs to get peeled. Sometimes it's the front line, sometimes it's your off tank. Because here, what you could have even done is you could have rotated, right? Because if you look to your right, then the left side of your shield would have gone outwards. So if you were looking like that, then your Roadhog would have gotten more peeling. I don't think he dies. Does he die? Yeah, okay. I'm sure it doesn't matter, but obviously your Roadhog was at the front there and he was taking a lot of damage. So I would generally recommend trying to shield whoever's in front of you.
Saw that Junkrat and was like, I'm out.
But yeah, like nobody should really be in front of a Reinhardt unless it's a flanker. Because like the Roadhog was in front of you, and obviously it didn't really matter because he's a Roadhog, he has 600 HP, but like if it was somebody like a Zarya or a healer in front of you, then you should definitely try and shield them backwards, right, because they're squishier and you're a frontliner. So that disengage from the Junkrat was fine. I think letting your shield break there was okay because obviously it's a Junkrat, and if you didn't shield, then you would have taken a lot of damage. But generally speaking, I wouldn't recommend letting your shield break ever, unless you have to, because of a large amount of damage. Yeah, so like that Brig is in front of you, and he ends up getting killed for it because Brig is obviously squishier than a Roadhog. But there again, I mean, no, you are getting healed, so I think it would have been possible to try and save her, but I assume that's just again another communication issue, which is something I can't really coach because I can't coach other people in your games to talk more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here again, you let your shield break. What I would have recommended instead was to... Where's my mouse? I don't know where it's gone. There we go. So you should have either played around this corner and let your shield stay up, or around this corner. You do start to back off this way, but by that point your shield's already down.
Yeah.
Your Roadhog's off doing his own thing, which is fine. Like I mentioned earlier, it's perfectly fine for a Roadhog to flank, especially on this map, because of the long sightlines and stuff. Another thing you should do is yeah, okay, so as soon as you get a fire strike, you should always try and fire strike through a Baptiste window, right? Because it does 200 damage, and that's a lot of damage. You see it on like Twitch streams and Reddit clips everywhere with where people just get like 5 kills through a Baptiste window. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So there's no reason not to. I think you could have disengaged faster maybe. As soon as your Brig died, you could have gotten back. Even if it's just around this corner. Some people back around to this whatever it is. This little bit of cover. Danger keep out.
Yeah, a little hut.
Ooh.
Oh, that's what happened back.
Get over here.
I told her, I was like, throw a Bob, cool. Bob's out, I'm gonna jump down, and I told him.
Okay, so there. Hey, honestly, I think that play was fine, okay? The only thing you could have done is you knew that you were taking a lot of damage, okay? Bob is there. Bob is healthy. Bob isn't getting focused down. They don't have like a bastion or something that can instantly annihilate Bob. So you can just let him do his own thing, right? Because Bob is going to shoot this Brig, and then he's probably going to shoot this Anna. So in that time, the Bob can probably kill them both. So the only thing you could have done is you could have played safe, right? You could have shielded and either protected the Bob from extra damage or just protected yourself while you contested the point. Because in that time, that would have allowed your teammates to fully get back, and you might have been able to win, and you might have been able to stay alive for longer. But yeah, I think if he didn't end up dying, then I think that play would have been fine. Yeah, so if you survive for like 2 seconds longer, then everybody would have been back. But oh well. So you actually do end up winning. Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta pick on the Brig, I think. So kind of a steamroll from there. Brig is the carry for every team, right?
Yeah.
So this is fine. I think if you're playing Ryan and you don't have any like support, you don't have a Zarya or a Sigma to like synergize with you, then I think playing this far back is fine. Because obviously you just got to pick under the Brig again, so generally speaking you'd want to push up, but you don't have much support and much tank synergy because you have a Roadhog, so I think playing here is fine, playing at this corner. I mean, you might want to try to play up to this choke under the bridge to maybe try and focus down the Sigma a bit, but I think this is fine. Nice. So that would shield, yeah, there we go. I think the only thing you could have done there is try to get around here, but honestly, that wasn't much you could have done there. Nice pick on the Brig,
Yeah.
but unlucky, I guess.
I was like, I need cover.
You still managed to win, damn. Good job,
Sure
Bob.
Yeah. Bob did something.
Actually, just give me a second. Okay. So, as a Ryan, you've always got to be thinking, is it worth me shielding right now? Right? Because right now, you are shielding the enemy soldier. And you don't need to do that. Because you are shielding nobody. Nobody's behind you. Everybody's over here. So one thing you should have done is, well, as soon as you saw that they were here, you should start rotating around to the left, okay? At this point, it's fine for a little while for them to be unshielded because they have this here, this physical cover. But you are doing nothing here. You are not supporting anybody. The only thing you're doing is giving the soldiers some ult charge and whoever's over here some ult charge if they want to. So yeah, generally you should be thinking, who am I shielding right now, and is it worth for me to be holding right click? If it's not, then you can push in, you can do some chipping damage, but if it is worth you shielding, then shield. But right here it's not, so I guess your aggression is kind of warranted, but it's probably a better idea to play safer and play off to the left instead, around there, so that you can shield off this bit, so which forces them around there. But yeah. Yeah, so there I'd be trying to get out of that room as fast as possible if you end up missing your charge. Yeah, that was just unlucky. I think that was just a positioning error.
Yeah.
You should have just kept in the back of your mind, like, where is the rest of my team? Is the team behind me? And if they're not, then you've got to play in front of wherever they are.
Yeah, and this is where I start saying, hey, we need to get Junkrat off of high ground. I'm tired of him destroying my shield.
So this looks like an aggression issue, maybe. You should give them as much space as possible, if they've just capped the point. Give yourself time to regroup. So like here, you're 2 down, right? So there's no point in playing here. You might as well play back at the car. You can play back here, you can play in there. Just give them as much space as you need to, because even if you hit a 6-man shadow, you're still going 4v6. So it's unlikely that you're going to get much from it. It is a big slam, to be fair, but that's just because you're 2 down. There isn't enough follow-up for you to get much from it.
Hanzo stays back, which he should. But...
That was definitely unnecessary. Using rally when 4 people are dead. Well,
yeah.
At this point it's only 2, I guess.
I didn't see that dragon was loaded concern.
So somehow, do you end up winning this? That's crazy. Okay, somehow you've managed to stabilize, at least for now, which definitely shouldn't have happened. As soon as you died, then it should have just been, like, the point should have been done. At least until, like, the end of it.
I think that was the frustrating part about this game, is we keep holding them to overtime and then they cap.
Like, as soon as you died there, they should have been able to get the point about there.
Yeah.
For free. Because you were dead. And your off tank and your main support were coming back from spawn still. So that was... I guess it's just usage of ultimates, right? Because generally in higher SRs, if you've lost a fight, you don't want to commit ults to it. Unless you are really trying to bring it back. Because you can obviously use ultimates to tip the scales back in your favor, but it's generally just a better idea to reset and save ults for the next fight. So yeah, now this aggression's fine. I'd even be playing more aggressive than this because you've got a couple picks. You could try to get the soldier or whoever's down there. So you could just shield off here where this dead Rhine is. So you can enable people to shoot the soldier or shoot the Junkrat if he goes over there. But I mean, again, like, they're coming back from spawn, so your lack of aggression isn't going to matter much. It's just obviously nice to get staggers. So here... Yeah, okay. Getting back here is fine. Here I would shield the entire visor as much as I can. Yeah, there we go. I think suicide charges are always fine. If you think you're gonna die, you might as well try and take somebody with you.
Yeah. It would have worked if that immortality field hadn't popped up.
Yeah, I think they just press Q, and that's the main reason why they were there.
This is where Joker really starts to irritate.
So you tend to use Fire Strike basically immediately after it comes off cooldown, which is generally fine, but you want to make sure that you're at least going to hit somebody. So like with that second to last Fire Strike you did, actually I'll just take it back because a lot's happening that I'll probably have to talk about.
Oh, definitely.
So you did a Fire Strike from like around the corner, and I mean it's fine because Fire Strikes are great at generating ult charge, but like you don't know who's there and you end up not hitting anybody. It's a little thing, because I mean, even though you did miss, you get it on the next one, and the fact that you miss your fire strike doesn't lose you the fight. But obviously, it's better to hit people than miss people. So if you can wait a second or two, just like with Zarya bubbles, if you can wait a second or two to make the ability more impactful, then go for it. You don't just have to use everything off cooldown because it's an ability. So if you were more coordinated, or if you were hearing directional audio, you could try and fire strike the tire. Obviously it's over here now, but you don't know that. Because fire strike does 100 damage and tire has 100 health. And it's always a great feeling to destroy a rip tire with a fire strike.
Mm-hmm. And here I end up alone, so I try to charge away.
Huh. Okay, that's actually
So,
fine play. I'd get back. And I wouldn't go to spawn, I'd give you a healer some more charge. Nice. Yeah, they have a lot of damage here. Ready for battle. So yeah, D.Va can definitely work on first, because obviously you can go to high grounds and stuff. For some reason my PC keeps lagging. I think it's because it's been on for too long. It's kind of getting hot. But we'll work through it. D.Va's good because there's a lot of high grounds, especially in first point. So you can, I generally recommend going up to this high ground on the bridge here, and then poking down, because as I mentioned, a lot of people like to play on this this high ground here, like where that Rhine is. So you can use like your micro missiles to either just shoot shields or try and get some squishies. But here I'd definitely recommend focusing down this Symmetra, because you can fly onto her, you can micro missiles, and there are like high burst damage combos that you can do as D.Va. Obviously there's turrets in there, but you can't tell that yet. So there's no reason not to at this point. Yeah, Rhine D.Va is fine. I've even seen dive on this map, on this point of the map sometimes, because of the high grounds. Wait, I'm gonna close some stuff so that I can maybe get some more frames. I'll close these. I'm playing a jazz live stream in the background because I can't upload my Spotify music to YouTube, or else I get copyright struck.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, you've basically done everything that I said, right? So you're focusing down that Symmetra. You could have committed a little more in order to try and get the kill, but you at least committed a bit, which is fine. You forced it backwards, and then you played on the high ground, which is good. You should generally try to play on high grounds whenever you can as D.Va, because she's so mobile and she's good at denying space. So yeah, you're actually playing against two of your counters. Sim and Zarya are very good against D.Va because obviously you can't DM their M1s.
Yeah.
Wow.
I called out that fucking Sim. I was like, please get rid of her.
So one thing you could do is you either play high grounds and you try to avoid them and you just play on the squishies, or you just switch to like Zarya or Roadhog or some other off tank. Also, you should definitely try to prioritize DMing a Fire Strike whenever you can, because as I mentioned, Fire Strike is really useful for a Reinhardt to get ult charge. So if you can deny that, then it's good, because you'll be postponing, and you'll be like dragging out the amount of time that it takes for the Reinhardt to get ult charge as much as possible.
Right.
So yeah, that high ground take is fine. I really don't know what's wrong with my computer. It's whatever. We'll walk through.
Yeah, this was just because I figured there was turrets all over that bridge.
So you could have played maybe even more aggressive. Maybe got it here, but that would have been maybe risky since your healers are all the way back. At this point, I'd be thinking I should really focus on the brig, or I should just try and poke down the Zarya or Sim or something. There's not much you can do here because you obviously can't engage into anybody because you just use your flights. So I'd probably go for the brig there. Yeah, so here, I think it's okay to go for the turrets, but while you do that, you get to pretty low health because Zarya's just farming you. Because as I mentioned, Zarya counters you. Yeah, so you do fly to try and get the brig, but by that point she's already packed up, I guess. So at this point, I just fly out, right? You're low. You have your boosted. I would fly up the same way you came in. There we go. I'm like a prophet. It's crazy.
You're right. And I was kind of happy I took that because I knew our widow was right there. I get really irritated at this. Brig's getting to do whatever the fuck she wants.
F. So if you're having trouble against a Zarya or and a Sim as D.Va, you can just switch, but it's up to you, I guess. I mean, it's been... You could switch to Winston. So Winston definitely works. He's good at taking down turrets, so you could just switch to a Zarya. Or whichever off-tank you're best at, really. I don't think there's much difference. Double shield could work. I don't know. A lot of things. Oh, goodness. This pressure is okay? Yeah, nice. I'd maybe try and get a bit closer so you can throw some melees in there and deal some burst damage.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's okay. So at this point you can play super aggressive, right? You can play right the way up to the Junkertown sign. Yeah, so yeah, you obviously don't know they're there, but you could fly up to like there maybe and either scout it out and report back to your team or like do some poke damage with your missiles and stuff. So at this point, if you already see they're there, it's probably not a good idea to engage onto it.
I think the idea that I was going for was just to push it back, but something hits me because I didn't make that initially.
Yeah. Did you not have flight there? Unlucky.
I don't think so.
So you were kind of just looking into the sky for a second. Yeah, 2 seconds left cooldown. Unlucky.
And then he throws brutality in there.
Bro, what is happening? I'll close these as well. Whatever. Okay. That would have been fine. That would have been a fine bomb. It looked fine to me. You should have kept track of your cooldowns a bit better, I guess, to avoid you just looking into the sky for 2 seconds while the rest of your team were fighting. Another thing that you could have done was just ignore the flight and help your team kill the tanks or something. And then if you got out of mech, you just bomb to remech or you bomb to force them backwards.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it may be a little bit late in the fight because of the extra 2 seconds you were waiting around for flight boosters, but it was fine. At this point, I just fly away. There's no point battling a brig. Ah, there we go. And then you can just DM yourself out, right? You can hold right click and then just hold S, and then you could just back up. So generally as Baby D.Va, what I like to do is I shoot into the biggest clump of enemies that I can find. So 1v1ing a brig is probably not a good idea because of the shields and stuff. But like, Like, I would have played main. I think it's fine that you played left side because you get it back anyway. But you could have shot. Like, even if you missed, like, if you missed the brig here, then you don't get any ult charge. But if you missed the Rhine here, then you can hit the Zarya, you can hit the soldier, you can hit whoever might be in the backline. Obviously, there's nobody there now, but you get the point. I don't know if that was intentional, but that was probably a good thing to do. Save your Baptiste from dying.
Yeah, I knew Bap was behind, so I threw myself into it.
Okay. So I think you probably should have switched. If not just to Winston or Zarya or just something, because yeah, that Zarya and Symmetra combo were just too powerful. It was nothing against you as a player on D.Va. Obviously, there's things that you could improve on D.Va. There's things that everybody can improve on D.Va, but the fact that you're playing against two of your counters is just a big problem. Yeah, okay. I'll go into another practice range. I'll talk about round first. Talk about some general, just like I did with Zarya and with Orisa. I'll do the same with Ryan and D.Va for a second. So I am actually writing a guide for Reinhardt at the moment. It's on the forums. I'll send you the link. It's a work in progress, but it's about all the like all of the little things that you can include to make your Rein play better. Because there's a lot of different techniques that a Reinhardt can implement, and that like a lot of low SR Rein players don't know about. So I'll go over a couple of the big ones now. If you want to know any more like niche ones or any smaller ones that you can implement, then you should definitely check out the guide. It is pretty long, but I think it's worth it if you're serious about getting better at Rein. So first one is increasing swing distance. So as you can see, I cannot hit this bot from here, but if I look in the distance, in the direction that I am swinging from, so for example, I'm looking to the right of the bot here because the first swing goes right to left, and I swing, then I hit it, right? And that is because Reinhardt's swing hitbox goes in an arc, and so for some reason it's got extra damage on the sides, I guess. So if I do the same from second swing, where it's going left to right, then I look to the left of the bot, and I can hit it from further away as well. And that's incredibly important, right? Because Rein is slow, and if you're trying to catch up to somebody who's just out of range, then you can, it's called corner swinging, I think, because you're looking off to the sides. I don't know why it's called that. It's got nothing to do with corners. But it's definitely powerful because you can hit people from further away. And obviously, dealing more damage is always a good thing. So I just tend to implement it into my gameplay no matter how close or far away they are, because I don't know if during the swing animation they're going to get further away from me or not. So I just always tend to corner swing. There's no point looking at them in Rein. You might as well always just get in the habit of switching from one side to the other whenever you're swinging. And if you need to, then just practice that on some bots until you get used to it. Until you get used to actually like corner swinging instead of actually looking at them. And then this can be manipulated by turning even further and turning more drastically, because that means that you hit them further in the swing, which means that you have the opportunity to get further distance onto them in that time. So like that with that robot there, it was too far away, but I did it like a full, like I was looking 90 degrees away from them, and in that time I like caught up to them. So depending on how far away, you can alternate your corner swing distance. But again, that's the thing I go over in the guide, if you don't understand that fully. Second thing, you can cancel swing at any point with any of Rein's other abilities. So for example, so you can swing in shields, you can swing in fire strike, you can swing in charge, and you can swing in earth shadow. And swing and fire strike is used for damage combos, damage burst combos. So you can end a swing early and then fire strike to deal extra damage, or not extra damage, but damage faster. And another thing you can do is if you look in the other direction from the bot, so this will be a corner swinging direction, this is the other direction, then you can hit them earlier in the swing, right? Because again, the swing goes right to left, so the closer the bot is to the right side of your screen, the earlier in the swing that they get hit. So you can do it again to do it a little bit faster even then, to get even faster DPS, I guess. So those are the fundamentals. I think knowing that you can cancel swing is super important, and corner swinging is incredibly important as well. You should incorporate that whenever you can. Another thing is you can increase charge distance by holding W, space and W at the end. So as you can see there, I ended swing and I kind of jumped forward and held my momentum because I was holding space. So that's useful as well. I saw that you didn't do that a couple times. Like it's useful if you're coming back from spawn, for example, because you'd want to go across the most distance in the least time to get back to your team. But that's about it really. You don't usually need to extend your charge distance if you're actually charging somebody in game. Another important thing is if you're shielding and then you hold M1, you can use your third-person camera to look around, which can be useful because if you hold M2 and then turn around and then hold M1 but then continue holding M1 and let go of M2, then you turn in the direction you were facing. And this can be useful to be getting fast turns around for like blocking shadows or blocking damage from different angles, or you can use it to throw in a ability, or even just do a style on the enemy with a 180 shadow.
Yeah.
And then corner swing to kill them. I don't use that too much in game, but like if you're, I don't know, if you want to play around a choke, like it can be useful to look around corners and stuff, because if you're playing around a choke here and you think somebody's on your right, then you can just look like that. And that's pretty useful. Because now I can see to my right. If I want to look forward, then I just turn my mouse back to straight on. But yeah, there's a bunch more different techniques like jump charging and counter pinning and things like that. That if you feel like it, then you should definitely look at the guide. Again, it's a work in progress because there's a lot of different things to talk about with Ryan's kit and the little nuances that differentiate the good Ryans from the bad Ryans. But yeah, I mean, it's half an hour left. I'll get it up for you. See if there's any major ones that I missed. I'll go over Diva while it loads, I guess. So there isn't much to Diva apart from knowing her burst damage combos, in my opinion, and knowing how to engage and stuff. So if you're diving an individual target as Diva, there's a specific kind of burst damage combo that you should try and do that incorporates shooting and using micro missiles and using all your DM. Because I saw when you were engaging with somebody, all you did was fly up to them and shoot them, which can work. But if they're getting peeling, or if they have armor, or if they're like running away, then it might not be as helpful. So one thing that you can do is you can throw micro missiles in there as well to kill them faster, because obviously you can shoot and you can micro missiles at the same time. I think, I hope. I don't really play Diva as much as the rest of the characters. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so you definitely can. So that's useful if you need to burst somebody down. Another thing is you can throw, you can melee to end your flight. So if you're engaging onto somebody, like on a high ground or something, and you can fly into them, you can shoot, you can use missiles, and then you can melee to finish them off and to stop yourself flying as well. So that's super useful. You can also boot people with jets, or whatever they're called. What are they called? Boosters? Boosters. and this can be useful. So, for example, if you're doing if you're doing like, what's it called, counter dive? Yeah. So, like, if for example on Numbani first, a lot of teams like to play dive because of the high grounds where all the Annas like to play. So one thing that you can do is you can wait for the tanks to dive on you, and then you just boop them away by literally just doing that, like flying into them and then turning back onto the high ground, because that disrupts the momentum. Like if they're playing monkey, then it disrupts the momentum enough for them to probably just fall off the high ground and not make it. Obviously, if they're playing diva, then they'll still have boosters, so it won't matter anyway. But it's definitely good against monkey. There's not really much for diva apart from, I guess, DM usage. Like you should generally you should focus down on key abilities like Moira Orbs and Fire Strikes. Sorry, just a second. I have forgotten what I was talking about. I'm sorry, someone came in my room. Oh yeah, DM usage. Okay.
Yeah,
so
Fire Strikes.
So yeah, like as I mentioned, Fire Strike can go through every single character on your team, and a Reinhardt can get a lot of ult charge off it. So whenever you can, you should try and DM things like Fire Strike. Same with Moira Orb, not so much for the ult charge, but like Moira Orb can do a lot of poke damage, which is why a lot of Moiras like to throw out damage orb early in the fight, so that they have like a healing orb later on. But they've still got they've still done a lot of damage because of it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you're not DMing those things, then you should try and just go for large amounts of damage. So like, if you're peeling for your backline, then you should DM everything. 1 second again. Yeah, like if your backline is getting dived, then you can peel by flying onto your backline and then just DMing everything that the dive tanks do. Or if you're just generally playing a team comp and there's a lot of damage, like, I don't know, a Reaper or a Junkrat spam, things like that, then you should try and DM that. You shouldn't just go for random little bits of poke damage, like, what's an example? I don't know. If you're not like, if it's before a fight, then you don't usually need to do it, unless you think you can get your DM back in time. You should try and prioritize on like key abilities like Fire Strike Art with damage orb, but otherwise you should just save it for high amounts of energy or ultimates, right? Most of the time eating ultimates is based on luck. As I mentioned with Zarya, there's specific things that a Zarya or a Mei or anybody that you can eat the ultimate of. There's specific things that they'll do that you can read off them and play accordingly, save your DM accordingly. So you can try and learn that, I guess, but generally it's just based on luck, and you should try and, if you do think that the enemy Zarya or Mei or whoever has ultimate, then you should just try and conserve as much DM as possible. Yeah, I don't know. Also, I guess if you want to, you can... There's a lot of different spots that you can Diva Bomb from as well. Generally, that's something you should look up online though. I know there's a bunch of YouTube videos about different Diva Bomb spots, but I'm not much of a Diva player. I usually play the Winston in a dive comp. But if you do want to get into Diva, then you can learn the different ways to manipulate your boosters and the velocity and whatever it is. How to bomb well, I guess, you know. But yeah, that's about it. I think the most important thing to learn as Diva is whenever you engage in somebody, you should try and do as much damage. So you should shoot, you should use missiles, you should use melee, you should just use everything. Everything at
Yeah,
once.
melee is something I don't use a lot in the too. I've done that
Um,
times on Hulu as well.
hmm?
I've booped people into the well on
Ah,
accident.
nice. So yeah, I'll to go over all your tanks again. Let's have another thing. Okay, Orisa. So what do you need? Let's see if you remember.
Shield placement, so I need to be a little more aggro with that. I need to put it where I want to be instead of where I am. Need to move more instead of just staying stagnant with Orisa, like standing still and getting shot with my head.
Yeah. Wow.
Tracking with her
Surprised you
and
remember.
Zarya. I'm trying to learn. But Orisa and Zarya, I both need to work on tracking for those two so I can get more value out of them in terms of damage. Zarya bubbles sometimes, and I need to bubble and move, right click melee, um, flick to the ground to try and bait out like kinetic grasp and defense matrix.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Protect or enable. Can you type with the Epic Pen? I don't think you can. That would be a lot easier if you could just type it out.
I think there was a text one somewhere. I don't remember.
Um, I'll just whatever. You seem to get it. It's fine.
Yeah.
Nice.
I do remember physical cover too. Uh,
Mm.
After fights have been won, I need to push up to chokes if I can. Be a little more patient with my fire strikes instead of using them off cooldown.
Okay, so I was really bored, so I've been starting to make this guide. It's in the Division 25 chat.
I'll look at that. I
I
like the
use
gift.
yeah, I use gifts for everything. Like cancel I start with some pretty basic stuff like canceling swing and burst damage combo, which we've talked about, and increasing swing range. I use gifts for everything because it's easier to demonstrate than it is to tell. Things
Yeah.
like shield blocking ultimates, camera movement, shield hopping, which is just jumping and shielding to move faster and to take less damage. Jump charging, which is just charging before you jump. Charge combo, which is charging somebody twice, but that's kind of hard to pull off. Counter charging, which is charging another Rhine or maybe a Doom or a Doom punch or a Brig stun. That's important as well to remember, which just stops the momentum and you can do it at any point. You can increase the charge distance like we talked about with spacebar. You can surf walls, which can also help to increase your distance. Um, then I'm in the middle of talking about Earth Shatter because there's a lot to talk about with Earth Shatter, like ult tracking and how to block it. Like don't get into a routine, don't use Fire Strike off cooldown, check your corners for flank shatters, play overly passive, that kind of thing. But it's a work in progress. So I'm gonna add a lot of different stuff. I've still got to talk about mindset and playstyle and all that stuff. At the moment, I've just talked about generic different tips for each of the abilities, and I don't even think I'm done with those yet. But I'm pretty happy with it so far. So yeah, um, if you have another quick game, we might be able to review that. But the event was only until 1 a.m.
I think I'm good.
Cool.
I
So
do appreciate it.
so when I've got this on my YouTube channel, which will probably be in, I might get it up tonight, or it might take me longer than that. I don't really know. I'll have to do it overnight because bad PC. When I've got it, then you should try and watch it. I know it'll probably be boring because it's 2 hours long, but you should really try and incorporate these tips that I've talked about into your gameplay, and then like in a week or two, then we can have a follow-up coaching session where we see how you've improved and we see the areas that we still need to improve. All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was awesome. Thank you, and I will definitely be incorporating those into my games as much as possible.
Nice.